Colorado men face federal charges for selling, quote, the most illegal guns you can make. Their words, not mine. A Supreme Court decision today probably doesn't help their case much. Election officials in Colorado expressed bipartisan concern about President Donald Trump's new order on elections.
Having your voice heard through the ballot box is why we have a living and breathing government.
After crushing records in Colorado, an endurance runner takes on a notoriously weird ultra marathon in Tennessee.
The entire Barkley experience, it was way more than I expected, and in a very good way.
And a nonprofit helping families make their rent payments falls on hard times of their own. I bet we can help. A celebration of your 250 weeks of generosity tonight on Next. They described the weapons that they were selling as the most illegal guns that you can make. Two men in Colorado used a 3D printer to build parts for ghost guns, then ship them across the country. Now they're in big trouble, perhaps predictably. It's bringing our Angeline McCall. And Angeline, these men were young and sending these weapons all across the nation.
In fact, early 20s, both of these men were, and they were running an entire ghost gun operation out of their shared home, according to court records, where they created ghost gun parts that would transform a firearm into a machine gun. The two men, Christian Granat and Aiden Fritz, were charged after selling to undercover informants. And not only that, but they shipped these parts across the country from their home in Colorado Springs, concealed in packages of Legos. In their conversations with the informant, court docs say the two bragged about how cheap the parts were to make and commented that with the parts, then you have an effing machine gun. The gun parts did not have manufacturer markings or identification or serial numbers, which is a big no-no under federal law, making the guns untraceable. And just today, the Supreme Court decided on a case to uphold the Biden administration's regulations on ghost gun kits, saying they do need to be regulated in most cases, and buying from this kind of in-home operation would violate those laws.
So they're not just breaking federal law, but also state law that is currently being challenged right now.
Yes, under state law, also in violation of that. Now, at some point, way back when, ghost guns were unregulated. So now in the state of Colorado, if you have a ghost gun, you're supposed to actually bring it in to get a serial number and so forth. And so, of course, in this kind of operation, that wouldn't have been happening.
Highly illegal in boxes of Legos. Angeline McCall, thank you. So what if the reason that rent in Denver is so expensive is because of algorithms? That's what state House Democrats are alleging right now. They're trying to keep landlords from using computer algorithms to coordinate rent prices and artificially inflate costs across entire markets. The House bill is backed by progressive Democrats. It would ban the distribution of algorithmic software that can be used by two or more landlords in the same market when setting a rent price. The bill could target large companies like Greystar or Cortland Management, which are already under investigation by the DOJ and Colorado's Attorney General. The ongoing lawsuit alleges they used a software called RealPage to set prices by sharing competitive non-public information about rents and occupancy levels, as well as pricing strategies. A recent report from the Biden administration claimed those algorithms drive rent prices up by an average of $136 a month in Denver. Now, this bill likely faces a pretty uphill battle from here. Last year, the same proposal died in the Senate. After years of spreading election rigging claims, President Donald Trump wants the federal government to have more power over elections. His latest executive order promises a sweeping overhaul of state election systems. Like most of his executive orders, though, it's likely to face a legal challenge. A lot of the order focuses on non-citizens voting, which is already a felony and relatively rare. But Trump wants to require proof of citizenship on voter registration forms. It would also require states to turn over their voter lists to the Department of Homeland Security and DOJ as well for review of potential prosecution of voter fraud. Denver's Democratic clerk Paul Lopez says requiring that data is an overreach by the federal government.
Executive order is against the Constitution. It is the state's rights to be able to oversee their election processes and run their elections. Under no circumstances are we going to allow the Dodge or whoever these folks are, Musk or Trump, who already have a record of not handling sensitive information correctly, access to our voter rolls.
A lot of the requirements in the order are already in place in Colorado, like requiring ballots to be received, not postmarked by Election Day, or restricting the use of QR codes to scan and count ballots. But Weld County's Republican clerk, Carly Koppus, says she's concerned about a new requirement for preserving a record of each person's vote. Colorado's Constitution requires ballots to be separated from identifying information before being counted to protect voter privacy.
EO saying that I'm now going to have to be able to identify a person's ballot so that they can verify is definitely going to be something that we're going to have a long conversations about, due to the fact that the Colorado Constitution doesn't allow for us to reveal how you vote even to yourself. You have a right to a secret and private ballot.
Both Lopez and Koppus called the order a concerning step towards federalizing the election system and said it'll only make it harder for them to combat misinformation about elections. There are also questions about whether the president actually has the power to make these decisions. That issue, of course, is likely to end up in court. 50 years ago today, a Coloradan made history, issuing the first ever same-sex marriage license in the country. A year after that, one of the nation's largest conversion therapy networks was created. Decades later, history is once again a current event. Our Jaleesa Irizarry shows us the progress made in the fight to preserve it.
Today, her name, her face can be spotted all over Boulder. Clela Warrex, issuing those 6 same-sex marriage licenses decades ago, is celebrated now.
These are hard to read.
That wasn't always the case back then.
And these are some positive and negative letters that were sent to Clela at the time.
Chris Taylor runs the Museum of Boulder. Letters written to Warrex back in the 70s are on display as part of an exhibit highlighting pivotal people in Boulder's LGBTQ movement.
I don't think these are even the worst.
Warrex signed those marriage licenses in 1975. Lately, 50 years doesn't feel so far away. For Heather Benton,
it feels like we're backtracking a little bit.
And Madison Dennis.
But it's definitely disappointing to wake up and read the news every day.
Benton and Dennis are both Colorado licensed therapists. They, along with others, created a national petition to shed light on a U.S. Supreme Court case that challenges a current Colorado law banning conversion therapy for minors. Benton and Dennis are against that challenge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a queer therapist myself, and it will truly harm our youth, like exponentially. And that is what I'm nervous for.
So we know that minors in particular who are subjected to conversion therapy experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, drug use, and suicide. I think that's unacceptable.
Conversion therapy is a widely discredited practice that seeks to change an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity through counseling. A year after Warrex signed those marriage licenses, Exodus International, one of the largest conversion therapy networks, opened its doors.
I know they went massive international and it caused extreme harm.
Benton fears if this law is overturned, more harm will come.
It wasn't always this progressive.
Taylor hopes looking at the past will allow people to be mindful of the present.
And we can celebrate those folks here in this exhibition as well, and sort of remind us all that the work continues.
The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to take up that Colorado case in its next session. It's important to note that Colorado does not ban religious leaders from performing conversion therapy. That means if places like Exodus International still exist in Colorado, they could still perform conversion therapy on minors because they were a faith-based organization, not necessarily licensed therapists.
So you mentioned it briefly, Exodus International, the conversion therapy network. Is that still active right now in Colorado?
Yeah, they actually disbanded in 2013. And when the leader announced it, he issued an apology and admitted they did cause a lot of pain for people. Interesting.
Jaleesa Irizarry, appreciate it. Thank you. We want to wish you a happy anniversary. Over the past 250 weeks, your $5 a week donations have helped raise more than $14 million for nonprofits doing important work across Colorado. We want to keep it going. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's Word of Thanks.
250 weeks is a long time to do anything, let alone do the thing that you've done for 250 weeks. Which is to give to a different nonprofit cause somewhere in Colorado. 250 weeks of a promise kept that as long as you are willing to keep giving, I will keep finding nonprofits that will put our dollars to good use. And that's how you've raised $14 million since 2020. I come to you this week with folks in a tough situation. 36 families that need help making rent payments so they don't get evicted. They've been homeless before. And an eviction's only going to make it tougher for them to find housing in the future.
This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign, your 250th, supports the nonprofit Family Tree. Family Tree helps these families with rental assistance, along with extensive case management and support to help those families out of poverty. Folks like Carrie and Alonzo, who came through their supportive housing program. Family Tree was awarded federal funding to cover the rental assistance in January. Then the administration changed and the feds went radio silent on them. So Family Tree's been scrambling to come up with $55,000 to cover the next month's rent while they wait on the federal funding. Good news, this week they finally heard from the feds, so they're optimistic this money will come in, but they're prepared to cover the rent if that doesn't happen.
This could all get sorted out, and if so, great. Then the donations we raise would go to support Family Tree's extensive anti-poverty work in Colorado. Housing specifically is how they would use our dollars. If the federal funding does not come, then we can be the reason that they keep those families housed for one more month while Family Tree figures out what they can do to avoid evictions. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. Your $14 million in microgiving proves the power of small donations. You know the deal. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. More than 4,500 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. That's meant we have started your recent microgiving campaigns with more than $30,000 in donations a week. You can use that same QR code or text to get there.
Just ahead, an annual status check on Colorado's forests suggests they could be doing better.
The Barkley is the challenge race for anybody that wants to go and put all their skills to the task.
What is the Barkley, you ask? Well, it's called the race that eats its young. And this guy's still around. He must have done pretty well. That's coming up next. A warm and dry 2024 wasn't great for Colorado's forests, and now our forests aren't exactly looking super healthy. The annual Forest Health Report from Colorado State Forest Service found that after a wet and cool year in 2023, near record-breaking temperatures and below-average precipitation stressed trees trying to build a defense from forest pests. The insects create fuel for wildfires, of course, by filling forests with dead and dying trees. Forest Service uses planes to fly over Colorado's forests every year to track outbreaks of insects by looking at the impact on the tree canopy. Each region of Colorado faces a different threat right now. The mountain pine beetle and emerald ash borer are spreading along the northern Front Range, while the western spruce budworm is widespread in southeast and southwest Colorado. Forest Service is prioritizing wildfire mitigation by trying to reduce fuels. Switching now to the weather, Kathy, I have a serious question. Are we done with winter? Is it shorts and t-shirt weather now for the foreseeable future?
No, this is fall summer. Now that we're in spring, this is fall summer.
There's too many fall spring, fall summer.
Welcome to my world. I call it forecasting fun.
It's not hard and it's not easy in Colorado.
It is not easy, but today was easy and enjoyable with sunshine and 75 degrees downtown. Tomorrow, temperatures will go warmer, which is hard to believe. We had 80s in southeastern Colorado this afternoon. Typically, we're in the mid-50s this time of year. Gorgeous view out there, that sun going down about 7:17. We're still in the low 70s this hour. Tomorrow's the day we'll see the winds increase ahead of a weather system that's moving into southwestern Colorado. Beneficial moisture there, but the one for Denver is this one offshore from the Pacific Northwest, where rare severe weather outbreak is likely tomorrow. A couple of showers showing up on the radar along the New Mexico line, but Denver stays dry tonight. We're in the low 70s now. We'll drop into the 60s after sunset. Warmest day of the week is tomorrow, record high at 79. Increasing clouds, but mild in Denver Friday with mountain snow. We see scattered showers Saturday, mixing with snow Sunday and then clearing out. You'll get some breaks in the precipitation for those outdoor activities with your kids, but it's going to be a cool weekend with some beneficial moisture on the way.
I guess climbing every 14er in record time in the winter isn't enough. An endurance runner from Colorado is taking on a race now that's nearly impossible to finish. His story is next. This is the part of the year of the Rockies season where we're all feeling really optimistic. In fact, Chris Bianchi places a bet around this time every year on them winning the World Series. And now you can watch whether that bet cashes without having to fight through the party deck to get a view of the field. The Rockies are coming to 9 News. We announced today that we'll be broadcasting 10 games this season on 9 News and KTVD. Some big ones too, like the Yankees, Mets, and Cubs. We'll be airing those games on Fridays throughout the season. Not sure if part of the deal also includes Kyle throwing out a first pitch, but we're told he's already practicing while on vacation. There's a dude who holds a record in Colorado for the fastest known time climbing all of Colorado's 14ers in the winter, but he got bored after he did that. Now he found a new challenge in the mountains of East Tennessee.
The entire Barkley experience was way more than I expected, and in a very good way.
My name is Chris Fisher, and I've been running really for at least 2 decades. This year was my first year at the Barkley. So the Barkley Marathon is a race up in Frozen Head State Park, Tennessee. So there's 5 loops. Each loop is quote unquote 20 miles and roughly, this year 15,000 feet of gain. Throughout the loop, there are books placed around the course that serve as checkpoints, and you have to use map and compass to get to these books. There are 40 people that start the race every year, and I made it through 1.5 loops. I'm one of 9 people to go into loop 2. So it's $1.60 to race with your license plate. That's all they ask for. The conch shell represents the 1 hour prior to the race starting, and then the guy lighting the cigarette is Laz. Once the cigarette is lit, the race starts. He does all these things to mess with the runners and the participants to, really dig deep into the mind and the physical. He truly is trying to find the edge of what humans are possible of, especially at something like the Barkley. I would say I've been training for it over the past few years. Some of the things I've done in Colorado, like the Mosquito 10-mile Traverse and Winter 14ers Project, a lot of those things have been really long efforts. I think this is the one race or event that I've done that even after it, I haven't stopped thinking about it. The reflection of this event has been way deeper and more meaningful. Yeah, it's the ultimate challenge for sure.
I believe literally nobody finished the race this year. We're back with your feedback next.
For families and individuals who have previously been homeless, they know having an eviction on their record can make it hard to find housing. And that's why the nonprofit Family Tree is scrambling to find $55,000 to pay the rent for 36 households in their program.
The federal government had said that the funds were coming in, then went silent until just recently. That uncertainty got the nonprofit Family Tree worried, and it also got them preparing to find other funding to cover rent. Our donations are either going to cover that rent for these families as they work toward self-sufficiency, or if the federal funds come through, then Family Tree will use our donations for its other housing programs to help Colorado families succeed. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in supporting Family Tree's work.
A lot of feedback tonight about where everybody else is. Georgianne and Craig write, "Dear Kyle, you will be missed. Hope to see you again on the airways someday." Kyle's just on vacation. I promise he's coming back. And then we got a text that says, "I need a dose of Marshall. Would you please provide an update on our friend?" Marshall is on paternity leave. He will also be back. I promise you that as well. But until then, we're holding down the fort here. See you next time.